Good evening. I'm Les Manley.
And I'm Suzanne Machowski, and this is TMI World News.
Tonight, riots continue across America as Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and other radical left extremists take to the streets to loot, vandalize, and beat up others with their skateboards.
In other news, white supremacists have been labeled the most persistent and lethal threat in America, according to a report newly released by the Department of Homeland Security, a declaration also supported by the FBI. None of the reports by the DHS referred to Antifa as a threat.
Both the President and the Attorney General insist Antifa supporters are leading the riots across the country. President Trump tweeted he will designate Antifa as a terrorist organization.
Lacking the authority to do this, the president's motion would most likely be challenged in court. Meanwhile, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey has stated that largely peaceful protests have turned to outright domestic terrorism, mainly due to instigators such as white supremacists.
The president has federal forces standing by, ready to quell the leftist violence, and is waiting for a call from local authorities. He noted unilateral action taken by federal forces in Portland was a success.
Federal agents in Portland were accused of behaving like an occupying army and were pulled out in an embarrassing climb down by the White House. Complaints and video footage showed unmarked men in camouflage driving around in unmarked cars, abducting people off the streets.
As local authorities refuse further help from federal forces, the president has now designated these rioting cities as anarchist jurisdictions and said he will withhold all federal funding to these cities until the violent leftist mobs are quelled.
Top DHS officials have spent years grappling with how to combat the white supremacy threat with what they've called disinterest from the White House. Meanwhile, the term white supremacist extremist has been changed to domestic violent extremist to make it more palatable for the current administration to acknowledge.
In other news, fears of election fraud are driving the president to call on his supporters to flood the polling stations to ensure a fair and honest election.
After undermining the entire American electoral process, the president's heavy emphasis on military themes makes it clear he hopes to mobilize right-wing extremist vigilantes, such as white supremacists who have been attacking those protesting, to intimidate them as they vote.
The president has countered these paranoid claims made by the left and said leftist socialist mob rule is the real power behind the Democrats. He said to fight them, you can join the Trump army by going to armyfortrump.com and click on the enlist button to sign up for training in your area.
Critics are quick to point out that the president's 2020 campaign symbol is the same image first used on the white supremacy website vdare.com.
That is a coincidence. We cannot sit idle as America is destroyed by radical left communist takeover. America first! Remember to get out and vote. And then stay there, armed with your guns, to safeguard those polling stations to ensure the election is fair and free from fraud from the radical left. Support our troops by standing up to communism.
It has been confirmed that the jet used in the Republican Support Our Troops image is a Russian MiG-29 fighter plane.
Trump 2020!
Meanwhile, the president has joked about remaining in power 8 to 12 more years in violation with the 2-term limit set by the U.S. Constitution.
You people can't take a joke.
Watch us tomorrow night as we take an in-depth look at the 36 convictions stemming from Russian connections surrounding the president.
It's a Russian hoax!
The confirmation of Russian meddling in the current and past election, and alleged infiltration of communist Russia into the Republican Party. I'm Suzanne Machowski, and this has been TMI World News.